Today, I wanted to talk about such a mass, today's phenomenon as loneliness. Loneliness is a phenomenon that affects each of us to varying degrees throughout our lives. But in today's world, it has become a real epidemic, not only among the elderly, but also among all age groups. What is loneliness and how to cope with it? What is loneliness? Loneliness is a subjective sense of isolation that arises when our social connections do not match our expectations. It can manifest even when a person is surrounded by other people. It is important to understand that loneliness is not just physical loneliness, but rather an emotional state. U.S. Surgeon General Vivek Murthy placed a spotlight on America's problem with loneliness when he declared the issue an epidemic last year. Murthy explained, in a letter that introduced an urgent advisory, that loneliness is far more than just a bad feeling and represents a major public health risk for both individuals and society. Murthy also pointed out that, although many people grew lonelier during the COVID-19 pandemic, about half of American adults had already reported experiences of loneliness even before the outbreak. Over the past 4 years, researchers with Harvard Graduate School of Education's Making Caring Common (MCC) project have been investigating the underlying causes of loneliness, and in May they conducted a national survey with the company YouGov to find out what Americans had to say about the problem as well as the types of solutions they supported. Here are some of the findings from the survey which are explained in MCC's new report, Loneliness in America. Just the tip of the iceberg, authored by Milena Batanova, Richard Weisbord, and Joseph McIntyre. Who is lonely? 21% of adults in the survey reported that they had serious feelings of loneliness. Age. Hint. It is not what you might expect. People between 30 to 44 years of age were the loneliest group. 29% of people in this age range said they were frequently or always lonely. Among 18 to 29-year-olds, the rate was 24%. For 45 to 64-year-olds, the rate was 20%. Adults aged 65 and older reported the lowest rate. 10% felt lonely. Racial and gender identity. There were no real gender differences found. Men and women experienced similar rates of loneliness, nor were there major differences based on political ideology or race or ethnicity. However, adults with more than one racial identity had much higher levels of loneliness. 42% in this category reported they were lonely. Income and education. There were notable differences between income but not education levels. Americans earning less than $30,000 a year were the loneliest. 29% in this category reported feeling lonely, while 19% of Americans earning between $50,000 to $100,000 and 18% of those making more than $100,000 a year said they were lonely. What does it feel like to be lonely? In the Surgeon General's advisory, loneliness is described as a state of mind, a subjective distressing experience that results from perceived isolation or inadequate meaningful connections, where inadequate refers to the discrepancy or unmet need between an individual's preferred and actual experience. The MCC report helps to further explain why social isolation is not the same as loneliness. For example, one person in the survey who experienced loneliness described having plenty of family members around but not feeling appreciated by them. Another person said they were surrounded by other people who only are present in my life because I am useful to them. In their findings, the researchers also note what they describe as existential loneliness, or a fundamental sense of disconnection from others or the world. Of those who were lonely, for example, 65% said they felt fundamentally separate or disconnected from others or the world, and 57% said they were unable to share their true selves with others. What is the relationship between mental health challenges and loneliness? The MCC researchers found a strong correlation between loneliness and mental health concerns. In the report, 81% of adults who were lonely also said they suffered with anxiety or depression compared to 29% of those who were less lonely. They also noted a complex interaction between troubled feelings, where loneliness, anxiety, and depression all feed into each other. What are some of the leading causes of loneliness in America, according to all who were surveyed? Technology. 73% of those surveyed selected technology as contributing to loneliness in the country. Insufficient time with family. 66% chose this issue as a reason for loneliness in America. People are overworked or too busy or tired. 62% surveyed picked this concern. Mental health challenges that harm relationships with others. 60% of people rated this as a significant problem. Living in a society that is too individualistic. 58% named this as a cause of America's loneliness problem. No religious or spiritual life, too much focus on one's own feelings, and the changing nature of work, with more remote and hybrid schedules, were perceived causes of loneliness selected by around 50% of people who participated in the survey. What remedies do Americans propose to tackle loneliness? How to cope with loneliness. 1. Strengthen social connections. Find time to socialize with friends, family, or colleagues. Even small gestures like a phone call or coffee can make a difference. 2. Participation in public life. Join clubs, organizations, or volunteer projects. It helps to find like-minded people and feel part of something bigger. 3. Work on yourself. Sometimes feelings of loneliness are related to internal barriers, such as low self-esteem or fear of failure. Working with a psychologist can help overcome these difficulties. 4. Time limits on the internet. Minimize the use of social media that may create an illusion of communication but do not provide real emotional support. Other potential solutions? Conclusion. Loneliness is a complex and multifaceted problem, but it can and must be overcome. The main thing is to realize its existence and take steps to improve your life. Remember that you are not alone in this feeling, and there are always those who are ready to support you. Among their own recommendations, the MCC researchers stress the need to promote a culture that cares and serves others. Collective service can provide important connections that relieve loneliness. They state, as well as cultivate meaning and purpose and mitigate mental health challenges. They also urge public and private leaders to build up social infrastructure in order to help people develop meaningful relationships with others. 3/4 of those surveyed said they wanted more activities and fun community events, where they live in public spaces that are more accessible and connection-focused like green spaces and playgrounds. What do you think about it? How do you deal with loneliness? Write your ways to fight loneliness, and maybe one single person in this world will be less.